Security is going broke. What does that actually mean? One of the shows you were watching just now is a show, Copper Report, that's on New Jersey 12 Network every Saturday, and also on CW11 every other weekend. It's a half-hour show talking about retirement planning stuff. But on the show we were just watching, we talk about taxes on qualified plans, and we're going to spend a lot of time tonight talking about that as well. Because most people, their largest asset is their IRA, 401k, 403b, their retirement plan, 457. We'll talk about the taxes that are due on those things, and you basically have a partner with the IRS on those accounts, and what are some options that you could do. And we're also going to be talking about investing in retirement, or when you're about to retire. If you're a few years out within that 5-year window we call the retirement red zone, what's your philosophy on investing at those times, or being retired? Are you still an aggressive investor, or still investing as if you were working? So those 3 or 4 topics we'll hit tonight. We don't have a huge crowd tonight, so you know what we'll start off with. You can ask any question you want throughout the presentation. If we're running short on time, I will stop the questions. We're going to be here afterwards, so answer any questions that you might have. Okay, so for now we'll start. We'll answer questions. Okay, so with that, we'll talk a little bit about a little presentation. We'll start with it now. This is for compliance reasons. It has to be up there for like 30 seconds or so. So I don't expect you to read it, but what it basically says is, please don't do anything off of what you hear tonight without having a consultation with your financial advisor or tax accountant or tax attorney. Don't make any decisions based on the information here or talking to your licensed fiduciary advisor. You know, why'd you accept the invitation, right? I'm sure you've been invited to a million of these things in the last 10 years, right? This isn't the first one you received, but most of those other ones actually invite you to a steak dinner or a lunch, and a lot of people go to those events just really for the meal and not really for the content. We kind of do it a little different. We used to do those events, we stopped doing them, and we started turning this thing into what we call a retirement masterclass, and using public libraries and this place, which is the coolest thing I've ever been to. I don't know, when you first walked in the door, I do it every time I come here, and this is our 50th event. That little bat rack on the left, you can put your hands on Babe Ruth's bat. I do it every time I come, and when I leave, I touch it before I leave. So I think it's the coolest thing. So we do a retirement masterclass at libraries, and this is Montclair State University, because it ties into what our motto is at DPS Advisors, which is educate and empower people so they can make better decisions with your hard-earned money, okay? And like I said, we didn't invite you to a meal. We want to talk to the people who are really here to talk about what's going on with their finances. So there's a reason why you guys answered a Facebook ad and decided to come see us here at Montclair State, and hopefully we're going to get your questions answered. At the end of the event, under a no stress, no obligation, we're going to invite every one of you to come into our office in Roseland and say, hey, what did you really come for? I didn't give you a bottle of water, I gave you a little notepad and a pen, right? What did you really come for? All right, so we're going to talk about that at the end of the presentation.
When did they build this place?
That's a great question. It's been up here for a while. You ever come to a spring training game or a minor league game here? They're phenomenal.
That road, I never been up that road.
Right. This is a video about why I got into the business. I'm not going to show it because we just watched the half-hour TV show. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I got into the business, right? So a lot of people think if you work with a financial advisor, they're like the rich people. The advisors, they drive their fancy cars. You know, they don't want to deal with the middle class and the blue-collar people. You know, that might be true for other people, but that's not our motto. You know, when I grew up, my dad was a hairdresser, okay? And he cut hair for a living, and we had 6 people living in a 1-bathroom house in Roseland. And when we went to school, my brother would get a $1 bill and lunch was 50 cents. I'd have to go meet him in the hallway to get the change so I can get lunch. We didn't come from a lot of money. And my father taught us early on, you know, money's hard to come by, you got to work hard. And when you're working with people's finances, I never lose sight of that fact. You know, we're not super wealthy people. My clientele that we have, the families we serve, are not multi-gazillionaires. I deal with blue-collar, middle-class American people that their retirement plan is their biggest asset. In some cases, it's more valuable than their house that they live in, and that's what seems to relate to our families that we serve. And so I don't want you to think like working with us, you'd be dealing, we're going to push you off to junior advisors. No, you're going to work with one of us three, and you have all of us at DPS Advisors. We're not one of those rich, high-class financial advisory firms, okay? We're licensed fiduciaries, which I explained earlier on, and what does that actually mean? Okay, a licensed fiduciary has your standard of care at the fiduciary level. I use the analogy of Home Depot. So let's say you had to hang a picture in your house, and you needed a hammer. And you're working currently with one of the big box firm financial places. I can't really name them due to compliance, but you heard of all of them, where your money's invested. And that person sells you a 20-pound hammer. You ask them for a hammer, they sell you a hammer. That's a suitable recommendation. That's the level of care under suitable. A fiduciary has a much higher standard of care. So if you came into Home Depot and you came to me and said, hey, I need a hammer to hang a picture in my house, I'm going to bring you to aisle 12, and we have hammers from, a pound hammer to sledgehammers. Let me find the one that you can actually swing, and let me ask you a couple questions. How's your health? Any surgical procedures? Any heart issues? Orthopedic issues? We have to take that standard of care about selling you a hammer to a higher level. So if we ever sold you a 20-pound hammer and didn't ask you any questions, a licensed fiduciary is probably getting fined for that if you file a complaint. Under a suitable broker, that's fine. You asked for a hammer, they sold you a hammer. If you get one thing out of tonight's presentation is, you should be working with a licensed fiduciary. And if you ask your current person that you're working with if they are licensed fiduciaries, there's only two that are licensed. One is a certified financial planner, CFP. The other is a registered investment advisor, RIA. That's what we are. So if you ask your current advisor and say, hey, are you a licensed fiduciary? And they say, oh yeah, I'm a licensed fiduciary. Hit them with a second question and say, okay, which one? And if they don't answer that question with CFP or RIA, they're not telling you the truth. Because those are the only two people that went through the courses and testing and the regulations and are regulated by the SEC and FINRA to be licensed fiduciaries. So make sure you get that answer from them. So I've been on a guest speaker on Fox Business. My TV show's on CW11. I've been a guest speaker on MSNBC and CNBC as a retirement planning expert. On Fox Business, we were on a show called The World, oh my God, what's the show? The Wealth Council. Oh my God, I lost my train of thought. The Wealth Council is every Sunday at 2 o'clock on Fox Business. They bring advisors from across the country, come in a half-hour show and talk about different things going on in retirement or people who are about to retire. I'm on, I think, 4 or 5 segments of that show. They don't tell us when they come on, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you watch every Sunday. You'll see me on there, but we've been on Fox Business. I've been on CNBC, a show called The Worldwide Exchange. I was on a show as a retirement planning expert that was broadcast in 90 countries. So again, talking about retirement planning issues. What are people doing in retirement? It's a totally different mindset from investing when you were working. So it's a totally different conversation that we have with people. So wrote articles for Benzinga, Market Watch, and a bunch of other media outlets that we've been on. Licensed fiduciary, I'm 39 years in this business. Luke's a year and a half. Ted's been in the financial services field for a long time, with us for about 8 months, okay, on the client side. He was in the back office side for a lot of years, right? He'll tell you later when he starts talking that I'm older than him, even though he looks it, but...
Just stole my thunder.
Yeah, I did. That's why I shut down. I was tired of hearing that. So, we like to have fun with this thing. So this is where our show is broadcast on New Jersey 12 Network every Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, and they replay it at 6:30. On Optimum is channel 61, FiOS channel 530. Every other Saturday on CW11. I do a radio show on Sunday on WOR 710 called The Papa Report. It's a 1-hour show at 2 o'clock on Sundays called WOR 710. I wrote a book called Avoiding the Retirement Traps, and I'm about halfway, 3/4 done my second book called The Intelligent Investor. The first book I wrote really only focused on people in retirement. This new book, I want to talk to all of the people, younger kids like Luke. What should you be doing so you're not sitting here at 65 years old with $1 million in an IRA going, how could I pay the least amount of taxes to get my money out of this thing? So we want to talk to the younger kids and get that message out. So we're almost halfway done with that book. Hopefully by the summertime, we'll be out with that book as well. Okay, our first topic, Ted's going to talk about, it's about Social Security. We call it Social Security and You and the Big Secret. So Ted's going to come up and talk about the next 15, 20 minutes about this segment.
Oh, I get 15 or 20 minutes?
No, that was the joke.
Okay.
You get 10 minutes tops. Any questions so far about anything that, I didn't say anything yet, but do you have any questions, like when you came in here, hey, I wanted to ask this question, or just ask us?
All right, thanks, John. As John said, I've been in the financial services industry for about 35 years now. As the new guy here at DPS Advisors, I drew the short straw, meaning that I have to talk about Social Security, which actually is a great topic to talk about. But when you think about, there are actually 2,700 rules that govern Social Security, and the Social Security Administration in 2018 itself did a study, and they determined that there are over 9,000 different ways that a married couple can file or claim Social Security. So I have to talk about 2,700 rules and 9,000 ways to claim in 20 minutes?
No, 10.
10 minutes. All right, so wish me luck. With all of that said, actually, there are really two questions that people have when it comes to Social Security, right? The first one is, will it be there for me when I need it? Right? And the answer to that is yes, but. The second question is, when should I claim? What's the best time for me to claim my Social Security? And the answer to that question is, it depends. Right? So a lot of solid advice right there. You have a yes, but, and it depends. All right? The first question, when, will it be there for me? Social Security was enacted in 1935, 90 years ago, by FDR. Right? And they literally kind of just threw darts at a board and said 65 seems to be the year, the full retirement age that we're going to go with. 60 was too young. 70 at that time was far too old. So we're starting with 65. The interesting thing was, though, at 1935, the average life expectancy was 59 and a half years old. So what that tells you is they didn't expect most people to live long enough to begin to collect Social Security, right? So they were building a system where people were just going to be pouring money into the system, and not many people were going to be collecting, right? Here we are 90 years later, and all they've done with respect to the full retirement age is raise it from 65 to either 66 or 67, depending on what year you were born. However, the life expectancy now, right, is higher. It's about 77 and a half years, right? So people are living longer. I read a stat just today that they said by 2034, for the first time in the history of the United States, there are going to be more people in retirement age than under the age of 18 years old, right? So people are living longer. And what you need to ensure for yourselves with Social Security included in your equation is that you are not living, you don't want your standards of living to be below what they are as you're working and right now, right? So Social Security is a component of that. What's happening now, of course, is that you've got 70 million people filed for Social Security last year. So we're getting to the point, we're already at the point where more people are taking money out of the trust fund than are paying into the trust fund every year. It's a pay-as-you-go system, right? So I've been paying into the system for 30 or 35 years. They're not holding my money waiting for me to claim my Social Security. As I'm paying it in, whoever is taking it out is taking the money that I'm paying in. And when I claim, whoever is the new generation going to be making a lot more money than I'm making, I'll be taking the money out. But since more people are taking out than are paying in, the actual trust fund, that pot of money that's been building up for 90 years, is now being depleted. So they're estimating anywhere between 2035 and 2037, the actual fund will be fully depleted if Congress doesn't do anything. But since people are still going to be paying into the system, if Congress doesn't do anything, you can expect at that point that you'd get about 80% of what you would have gotten had the trust fund not been depleted. Okay?
Question.
Yes?
What about the people that are already collecting? Will they lose some of their?
No, so it's a lifetime benefit, so you should be able to continue to get what you're already getting, right? People filing after that will receive about 80% of what they were going to receive, okay? But there are things Congress can do, right? So there's, you'll see Social Security wage tax up there on the top right? This year, for the year 2025, that is $176,000. So if you ever look at your pay stub and you see either it says Social Security tax or FICA, people are often wondering, who's this FICA guy that I'm paying 6.25% of my income to? And that's the Federal Insurance Contributions Act. That's the money that goes to Social Security. So they could either increase that 6.25%, which we don't believe they're going to do. That's a no-win situation. Or potentially, you'll see the wage tax goes up. They can just continue to raise the wage tax. So if you make $200,000 this year, if you make $500,000, if you make $1 million, for Social Security purposes, they're only taxing FICA up to $176,000, right? So that's something, and I'm sure, if you're listening to TV nowadays, there's a lot of discussion as to, the bloat and people who are 300 years old are still getting paid Social Security. And it depends on what channel. We're not going to talk politics. What channel you're listening to, you're going to hear completely different stories, right? So the way we look at it, it's in no political party's interest to do away with Social Security. It's a no-win. The job of any politician is to get him or herself reelected, or at least somebody in their party, if there's a term limit, reelected. And if you're doing away with Social Security, you're talking about, potentially 30% of people's income when they're in retirement. And a lot of people aren't going to vote for people who want to do away with the whole system, right? So, yes?
Why are they talking about that now?
New president.
It's very scary.
So it's kind of a pendulum, right? If you've been around long enough, you'll see politics and processes go back and forth. There's another 3.5, 4 years left of Donald Trump as the president. Who knows what's going to happen over the next couple of years? If you listen to the pundits on TV, it's right now no one is fully sure exactly what's going to happen because of all the tariffs and the trade wars and things going on. But we don't know for sure. Again, from a political perspective, it doesn't seem to be a winning strategy for any party to do away with Social Security. So we think, you'll be fine from that perspective. All right, so the second question is, when is the best time for me to file, right, or claim my benefits? And really the answer, again, is it depends. We look like a group of people, and Chris loves when I use this word, a homogeneous group, except for Luke, right? We're all kind of in the same age category. As John said, he's a lot older than I am, and he'll always be older than I am, although he hates that fact, right? But everybody's situation is different, whether you're married, whether you're divorced for 10 years. They kind of call us the sandwich generation. We have people who are probably in this room who are still financially taking care of parents. At the same time, they may be taking care of adult children or younger children, right? So we're kind of stuck in between. And then you have to it's an interesting thing for a financial advisor to tell you to talk to your doctor, right? Longevity is going to be an important part of the equation when you're talking about whether or not you should claim. Right? So everybody in the room here tonight, the good news is you're going to most likely outlive what the age was when you were born. So I was born in 66, right? The average age, the average longevity in 1966 was 73 years old, right? The fact that I'm still here today, though, I now can expect as a male of my age to live to 84 years old. Females who are my age, 58 years old, can expect to live to 87. Half of them are going to live longer than that. So you need to prepare for that. All of these years that you've been working on your accumulation strategy, now is the time where the distribution strategy becomes even more important than the accumulation, right? So when can you file? So the first thing to realize, hopefully everybody knows, that you can file at 62 years old. If you choose to do that, you're going to get about 75% of what you would have gotten had you waited until your full retirement age, which again is probably 66 or 67 for most people in this room. And then if you actually wait till age 70, you're going to get 132% of what you had gotten had you filed when you were 66 or 67. You get what's called delayed retirement credits of 8% each year, each full year, for the time between your full retirement age and 70 years old, right? So if you can afford to, or if you're a married couple and you have one spouse who makes a lot more money than the other one, who's going to get much more in Social Security, it might be beneficial to wait to 70. And each year you're going to get a cost of living increase. It's about 2.6% going forward. The last couple of years, we had a few high years of the cost of living COLA increases because of inflation. It's based on the CPI, or the Consumer Price Index. Right now, it's about 2.6%, and that kind of helps you, when you're in retirement, keep up with the cost of things. Sir?
Just a question on what you just said. If you have two married couple, one making more than the other, and you said it might be beneficial to wait, for both of them to wait, or just the one who's the bigger earner?
Again, so everybody's situation is different, right? But historically speaking, things have changed over the last 20 years or so, but history over the last 90 years of Social Security is men have been the bigger breadwinners. Women have either taken care of parents, raised families. So over the course of the 40 years that you're qualifying for Social Security, men have traditionally made more money. So they've been the ones who in retirement would get more money in Social Security. If you need the money from an income perspective, it's made sense for the women to take money at 62 years old. So they can take what they would get at 62 years old, and then when the husband turns 70, the husband would turn his on, and what happens is, you got to think of it, there's disability, there's Social Security, there's spousal benefits, and then there's survivor benefits. So from a spousal or survivor benefit perspective, the higher earner could wait to 70, which would help your spouse or their survivor if something were to happen to you. Situations are different, but financially, if you can wait, it's better to wait. And we'll show you, if we go to the next slide, John. So this is going to help answer your question. So again, women, we all know, live longer, right? Social Security was meant to be about 30% of your total retirement income. What they're finding out, though, is 40% of women, it accounts for 100% of all of the income they have coming in retirement. All right, so if women are living longer, your tax rate changes also, right? If you were a spouse and your spouse died, you're now you're filing as an individual. The tax rate's even higher. So you've got Ron and Nancy, they're clients. We changed their name to protect the innocent. Ron is 60, Nancy is 58, right? If they live to their life expectancy, which for Ron would be 85, and for Nancy, it would be 90. If they both filed when they're 62 years old, you would see that the cumulative benefits from Social Security for the two of them would be $1.65 million over 85 and 90, all right? Now, if they both waited until their full retirement age, which is 67, the cumulative benefit would be $1.9 million, or it's nearly $300,000 more, all right? However, if they both waited till they're 70, they would get $2.12 million. So you can see the difference between 62 and 70 is like $400,000.
It goes up 8% a year when you wait, is that the deal?
The 3 years between 3 or 4 years, depending if your full retirement age is 66 or 67, between then and the age of 70, you get what's called delayed retirement credits.
But not if you turn it on, though.
Right.
If you turn it on at 67, you don't get the 8%.
Right. It's delayed retirement credit. So it's technically, without going too into the weeds, it's literally 0.66% each month. So if you do it 12 months, it's about 8%. If you do it for the 3 years, it's 8% each full year. So that's a significant benefit that's hard to replicate at a time when you want to be conservative. You're guaranteeing, 8% in that portfolio.
What about the cost of living? Is that adjusted as well, even though you're not collecting yet? Is it?
The cost of living is, if you're not collecting, it will be adjusted in your, okay? Right. Great questions.
Thank you.
So you'll see the difference there. It's a significant difference. It's about $400,000. What they're saying financially from like an accounting perspective, right, is obviously if you're taking it at 62, you're going to be taking it for a much longer period of time than if you waited till you're 70, right? Just many more months. But my parents are both 85 years old now. They're both still alive. I had a grandfather that lived to 95. I can expect a long life, right? Around age 78 or 79 or so is where you will cross over. So if you had started to take it when you were 62, right, you're taking it all of those years until you're 78. If you started taking it at 70, at about 78 is when cumulative you'll start making more money. And each month going forward is where there's a significant increase on the monthly balances. Does everybody understand what I just said?
Not really. They increase your
The
amount.
break-even point is about 78 years old.
But then do they increase your amount? each
You'll
year?
get the cost of living adjustment, the COLA, but because you're going to be taking, 37 or 2,800 a month compared to 1,900 or 1,400 each month going forward is it's significantly more money.
But if you collect at 62, your amount stays the same your whole life?
You get the cost of living, adjustment, right, yeah, right. Yes?
Just a quick question. How does a spouse get the spouse's social security? You hear sometimes, I have my husband's social security, I get my husband's social security.
Right.
And what,
So it all depends on how much money the spouse made. Like it's the higher, if the spouse waits to 70, right, you'll get a half benefit at the maximum. But if you were making enough money that you would have gotten more than your own Social Security would have been more than half of your spouse's, then you would get the higher of those two numbers. So perhaps what you're talking about is someone who's did not qualify for a lot of Social Security through their own income, and they were able to get half of their spouse's Social Security, which was higher than their own Social Security would have been. So that's, you get the higher. Question?
So my question is, so when you're saying that, you would forfeit your Social Security and you would just pick up your spouse's half Social Security?
If it's more than what you would
But you
apply.
would forfeit yours, you wouldn't get both?
No.
You wouldn't get both, that's right.
Fine. I have another question.
Yes,
So if you decide to retire at the age of 56,
okay,
and you want to take your Social Security at 62,
right.
is there a penalty that you're not putting any monies into Social Security from 56 to 62? Is there like some kind of,
As long as you qualified, there's what's called there's 4 quarters over 10 years, so you have to get 40 credits.
Okay.
So you literally have to have 10 years of full working to qualify for Social Security. As long as you qualified, there's no penalty, but between 56 and that 62, potentially, while there's no penalty, you could have forfeited a higher income that you might have been making during those years, because it's based on, you know, like the highest income over 35 years. So you might be forfeiting a higher income, but there's no penalty per se. And listen,
So we'll answer the rest.
yeah, I don't want to take too much. I think I'm probably over my time later here. We're going to be talking about taxes. We're going to be talking about, I don't want to steal anybody's thunder. Luke's going to be talking about volatility.
Jot your question down. We'll be here.
Yeah.
We're not going anywhere. Like, we're not rushing you out. We'll be here. We just want to get through the content in case somebody has to go at the right time. Then we'll answer all your questions, you know, then. Quickly, one thing that also that not a lot of people know about, if you were in a divorce situation with Social Security and you were married at least 10 years, if your ex-husband's Social Security is higher than yours, you can file and collect theirs. It has no effect on them, but you would be able to collect their amount of Social Security.
Only if your half is less than his full.
Well, that's why you would do it, because your half, yeah, your amount isn't as much as his.
But what if he's
You're getting his full benefit.
Is he alive?
Yeah,
And what if he's remarried?
doesn't matter.
Wait, say that again?
If you were divorced, you were married at least 10 years and got divorced,
Right,
and then when you turn on Social Security, if your husband's benefit is more than yours,
right.
you can collect their benefit. It has no effect on his, you get the higher of the two.
Wait a second.
So we'll talk about it after we're done, but that is, I've walked clients through that with Social Security.
All right, we'll discuss that.
Both will get money, your money?
Well, I'll answer that when we're done.
Okay.
So income taxing you, okay? How many people in the room right now have a 401k, IRA, 403b, 457, have a retirement plan? Tax deferred, meaning you listen to the message, put your money into this thing, you get a tax deduction for the contribution, you let it grow, tax deferred for all these years, and then you're going to be in a lower tax bracket when you retire, and that's when you take the money out and everything's going to be great. I think almost everybody raised their hand, right? Okay. Our country is $36 trillion in debt and rising by the second. If you go to usdebtclock.org, don't look at it too fast because your eyes will burn out. The speed of how much our debt's going is crazy. Who here thinks, where do you think tax rates are going in the next, not this year, next year, the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road? Do you think tax rates are going up or going down? Going up. Most people that we ask this question to answer it that way. Most accountants that we work with and that we talk to think tax rates are going to be going up tremendously. Most tax attorneys, same thing. Tax rates are going to be going up. So just common sense wise, if I had a tax deferred account, do I want to take the money out when the tax rates are low or when the tax rates are high?
Wow.
Right. So if everyone's in agreement that tax rates are going to be high, why would I be deferring my 401k, 403b, IRA, 457 to a possible higher tax bracket? We're gonna,
What age do you have to take it out?
we'll hit that. So I'm just asking general questions now, so we get into the idea of maybe what we were told back in the day wasn't really the truth, right? And we have all this money in these tax deferred accounts, okay? So we're $36 trillion in debt. We think tax rates are going up. So what are your options? All right, how many people, you know the required minimum distribution age, RMD? Everybody heard that terminology, the required minimum distribution? That starts at 73 years old right now. For most of our careers, it was 70 and a half. And then a couple years ago, the Secure Act, they changed it to 72. And then in the Secure Act 2.0, they moved it to 73. And then for some people in the room born, I think in 1964, 65, it's going to go to 75 years old when you have to start taking the money out.
Do they tell you how much money you have to take?
Oh yeah, IRS has a whole chart. Oh yeah, they got a whole chart. It's about 4% of the value of your account. So everybody here raised their hand. Y'all have one of those accounts. Has your current advisor or your tax attorney or whoever does your taxes talked to you about the taxes you're going to pay when you start turning on the distributions? Has anybody talked to you about how do we pay the least amount of taxes on these tax deferred accounts?
No. But you
No.
can't take it out before then and benefit, can you?
Why not?
57?
59 and a half is the earliest you can start taking money out of your IRA,
You
401k.
have to.
What's that?
73, you have to.
73, you have, at 70, if you wait till 73, the game is over. You're playing the IRS game. And we're going to go over some numbers here about what that game actually is, okay? So 59 and a half is the earliest you could take the money out. I mean, you could take it out earlier than that, but you're going to pay taxes and a 10% penalty. Okay, at 59 and a half, the penalty goes away. So if you have time between now and 73 years old, and you're not looking at what are your options to reduce the tax liability on your IRAs and 401ks, you're making a huge mistake. Every person in this room raised their hand. It's so important that if you were paying attention to that TV show before, I highlighted, we built the website, dpstaxbill.com. You go to that website and you just plug in a little bit of information, your name, age, how much your IRA is, 401k, 403b, whatever that account is listed as, how much is in there, what you think you're going to earn on your investments, and then what you think your tax rate's going to be. And you could change it around and play with it. And it'll give you, here's what the IRS is going to collect, here's what you're going to collect, and here's what your kids are going to pay in taxes. And it gives you an option, if you did like a Roth, one of the options would be a Roth conversion, how much taxes you can save. And we're going to go over a case today about that. So when people come into our office, and tax planning is one of their biggest things. Now, we're not accountants. We're not licensed accountants. So we don't do your taxes. But I'm going to show you strategies that we work with your accountants with to say, how can I pay the least amount? Because the IRS doesn't say you have to pay the most. You are allowed to pay the least, okay? But nobody's talking about it. Those big box firm people that we talked about before, they're not even allowed to talk about it. So if your money's sitting there, you'll never have that conversation with them. And most accountants don't talk about it because what do we tell accountants? We want to pay the least amount this year. Everyone's worried about this year. Hey, I have to pay $2,000 in taxes. Redo my return, take some extra deductions so I pay less than that this year. Accountants don't look at 5 years down the road. They don't look at 10 years down the road because we don't let them look that far down. It's our fault. We bust our chops about pay the least this year, make my return better. I don't want to pay. Well, guess what? You keep deferring and playing the IRS game. When you see these numbers, you're making a mistake if you don't least look at some ideas or options of what you're going to be doing or what you should be doing with these tax deferred accounts. Okay, so let's talk about that. One option is to do nothing. Play the game. Let them go. We'll tell you what the numbers are and you can just do it. Because one of the things with the people who are older like me and you, I'm 60 and most of you people are probably my age around that. We don't like change, right? But no matter what the numbers say, whatever, oh my God, it's too hard. I don't want to change anything. Let's just stay the course. Well, when you see the hundreds of thousands of dollars it's going to cost you by not looking at some alternatives, you really need to make look at and try and change your thinking on this tax deferred account. So the other option would be pay some taxes now. We all agreed tax rates are going to go up in the future, but right now we're in the lowest taxable tax bracket environment that we're going to be in for the rest of our lives. So why would I defer my money any longer if this is the lowest tax rate we're ever going to pay? And we'll talk about some numbers about that. What are some options we can contribute? Growing in, why I'm writing that new book, The Intelligent Investor, is to tell the young kids today, don't listen to what we did. Put money in a regular 401k, a regular IRA. Put it in a Roth 401k, a Roth IRA, because now it's tax-free to everybody. Tax-free growth, tax-free income, tax-free to pass on to your heirs, Tax-free to everybody. You pay a little tax on the money that you're putting in, because it's after-tax dollars, but I'm okay with that, because I'm gonna have millions of these young kids are gonna have millions of dollars. Think about if your 401k balance right now, I don't know what it is for all of you, but whatever it is, think about if it was sitting in a Roth and it was 100% tax-free right now. How great would that be? It'd be great, right? Okay. All right. So, let's talk about this. If you have a $500,000 IRA, 401k, 403b, whatever title it is, doesn't really matter. You're 65 years old and you're going to earn 7% in your portfolio. At age 73, when the RMD kicks in, your balance is worth just shy of $900,000. Your RMD that year is about 4%. It's $34,781 that year. And it increases every year now. Once that game starts, you have to take these distributions out. If you don't take the distribution out, you're going to pay taxes and a 25% penalty. It used to be 50. They knocked the penalty down to 25. So you have to do an RMD. And let's say, like Ted said, we're all living longer. You live to 90 years old. So that IRA at $500,000 at 65, you would have pulled out $1.1 million in distributions between 73 and 90 that you're going to pay taxes on. And let's say we're in that 24% tax bracket. Your taxable number is $265,000 of income taxes that you're going to pay on that $1.1 million of distributions. But it's not over yet, because at 90, there's still $1,010,000 in that IRA that's going to go down to your kids and grandkids that they now have to take in an inherited IRA and take out in a 10-year window. They have to do distributions on the inherited IRA. So let's say they're 45 years old at the time when you pass on, and you're passing on this $1 million IRA. You have two kids, they each get $500,000. They're 45, 50 years old, making the biggest money they've made in their life, and now they got to take out $50,000 from your IRA. That's probably going to bump them into a higher tax bracket, because tax rates are going to be higher 30 years from now, right? So let's say they're in a 30% tax bracket. They're going to pay taxes of over about $310,000. So this IRA that you had at 65 years old and decided to do nothing and just play the RMD game, it's going to cost you and your family $573,000 in taxes. That's the game we all signed up for.
Just for IRA?
What's that?
You just talking about IRA?
IRA, 401k, 403b, 457, any account that you got a tax deduction for the contribution, it grew tax deferred, and you're going to pay taxes later. That's a retirement plan.
If it's in there when you die.
What's that?
If it's in there when you die.
If it's in there when you die, so you're going to pay taxes when you distribute, and your kids are going to pay taxes when they get it. Was that just explained? Okay? Does that make sense to everybody?
So what age are you supposed to stop contributing to your IRA?
Well, while you're still working, we're not advising to ever stop. What did Teddy talk about before? You need as much money as you can. Keep contributing. If you're working, contributing, max it out. But don't max it out in the regular 401k. I would be maxing it out in the Roth 401k. So here's that $500,000 IRA. You did nothing. You listened to your accountant. No one told you. Your financial advisor didn't say a word about any tax planning strategy. So now you come see us, and my first question is going to be, hey, you got a $500,000 IRA. What's your tax plan? Well, what are you talking about? Well, what's your tax plan on that $500,000 IRA? What's your accountant telling you? Nothing. What's your current advisor telling you? Nothing. And I'll go, okay, let's put your numbers in the chart, and I'll just go read those numbers all over again. Or how about we do a Roth conversion? You have 8 years to go before you turn 73. Now, does everybody here know the current tax rate in 2025? In a married filing joint tax return, you can declare $394,600 and still be in a 24% tax bracket. Single person can have $197,300 and still be in a 24% tax bracket. So with this person, we said, this couple, hey, they didn't have that kind of income. Why don't we do a Roth conversion? We have 8 years to go. So in 8 years, I can take out $78,000 in change every year out of that IRA, pay a little tax, 24%. So in that 8-year period, I would withdraw on 620 grand. The tax bill is now $150,000. I can then take the money and move it to a Roth, keep it invested. It's going to grow, but now it's going to grow tax-free, have all the same income and same retirement income that I would have had in the regular 401k or regular IRA. And when it goes on to my kids, the same amount's going to go on to my kids. But what tax bill would you and your family want to pay? Taxes of $573,000 or taxes of $150,000? Who wants to pay $573,000? Who wants to pay $150,000? Why hasn't any of your current advisors or current tax people, accountants, talked to you about how do you pay the least amount of taxes on your retirement plan? Especially when you have a long time to go before the RMDs kick in. Now listen, if you're 70 years old now, we only have a couple of years. Probably not going to get all the money out of that IRA. We'll get some of it out. It's worth doing some. But if you are 65 and you don't have to touch this money for income to live on right away and you're working still, you should be looking at doing alternative retirement planning strategies so that you pay the least amount. And no one has talked to you about that, right? That's what you all said tonight. So everybody tonight, not only should you learn that, you need to work with a fiduciary, you should all go on dpstaxbill.com, run your numbers. Play around with the tax rates. Play around with the return rates.
Is that your website?
I built that website so people can go to it and run their numbers.
Thank you.
Okay? Now,
Quick question.
yes.
With the Roth IRA, are you required to take money out like you are regular?
No, that's a great point. Great point. At 73 years old, let's say you don't need that retirement plan for income. If it's regular IRA, 401k, it doesn't matter. You have to take money out. It's in a Roth IRA. If you don't need it, you don't have to do it. There's no RMDs.
So what do you pay the taxes on when you put
You
it
paid it when you did the Roth conversion, or if you're starting out with a new Roth, you pay the taxes. You don't get a tax deduction on a contribution. You're using after-tax money to go in. So you're either going to pay it on a conversion or pay it with after-tax dollars contributing. Now, you can't, if you make a certain amount of money, I believe it's like $165,000 or more, you can't contribute to a new Roth IRA. You make too much money. But we're talking about Roth conversion from an existing tax-deferred account. You could convert $1 billion. There's no income limit on conversions. It's contributions that have an income limit. So for like these younger kids, we tell them if you make a certain amount of money, you can't contribute to a Roth IRA. Hopefully your retirement plan has a Roth version of the 401k. Most of them do today. But if you want to tell your kids and grandkids, you better be contributing to Roth, not regular. Okay?
Didn't you say before, if you don't have an IRA, you should open a regular IRA? I heard you say that.
Absolutely not. We record it too. I never say that. Never would I say that.
Well, that's what we said.
That's a tax deferred account. That's a 401k, 457, 403b, IRA. That's a tax deferred account. You got a deduction for the contribution. It grew tax deferred. When you withdraw, you pay taxes later. That's exactly the same. No difference.
When do you start to have to take that out?
At 73, when the RMD kicks in. If you're retired at 73, when the RMD kicks in, you have to start withdrawing. Yes, sir.
You may have already said it, but I missed it. But if you were to roll out of a regular IRA into a Roth IRA, how much per year? What's the maximum you can take out?
Well, no, it depends. And again, I hate to keep saying it depends, but every person's situation is different. We're going to work with the tax code. I don't know how much income you're declaring right now. If you're declaring a married couple or you're a single person and you can do $195,000, if you have $100,000 in income that you're reporting, you have $90,000 that you can convert to a Roth that year. But we have to figure out where you're going to pay the tax from. So it's a 24% tax bracket. That's about $20,000. Now, a lot of people at this age, like to make the banks wealthy, right? They all have they're proud of their CD balances and their money market account. I got this big balance at TD Bank. I got a couple $100,000 there. They're giving me 3.2%. It's unbelievable, right? Well, guess what? If you have that and your IRA, 401k, we're going to be taking money out of that CD to pay the tax to get hundreds of thousands of dollars of tax-free income later. So we'll talk about, do you want to make the bank money or do you want to make yourself money, right? And we do that all day long. So what are the benefits of Roth conversion? Tax-free distributions whenever you want to take them out at any point in time, okay? If you're over at 59 and a half, there's no penalties. If you have a Roth, there's no penalties. You can take everything out tax-free. No required minimum distributions, tax-free inheritance to your kids and grandkids. You're immunized from any tax law change that Congress enacts. Do you guys know Ronald Reagan, one of the greatest presidents we've ever had? He was an actor before he was a president. And I think 1940-something, he did a cowboy movie, and his salary was $1 million. You know what the highest tax bracket was? You know what he paid? 90%. Do you think Congress, Teddy talked about what's a person supposed to do when it's a politician? Get reelected. Are they going to go around saying we're going to raise income taxes on your income when you're working? No. We're going to go after the 1%ers and tax the 401k people. Who are the people that have the money in their retirement accounts? Do you think middle-class people will vote for they'll vote for that? It doesn't affect most people because not everybody has these accounts. Now, we happen to live in a part of the country where we are all contributing, and most everybody does have those things. But I could see everyday America voting for, tax the 401k people. I don't have any of that money. The average balance in a 401k is like 40 grand. Tax the heck out of it. Those people with $500,000, $1 million. We don't care. I'll vote for you. When I first got in this business, I know we're kind of running close. Luke's got to get on here. When I first got in this business, in the mid-'80s, there was if you took money out of your IRA or 401k, there was 3 taxes: federal tax, state tax, and an excise tax. They did away with it in the early 90s. Stroke of a pen. Congress changed the rules. We're so far in debt, Congress can change the rules at any time for the rich people who have the retirement plans. And that's everybody here in the room. So take the money out now and tax rates are low. I'll be here afterwards. We'll all be here afterwards. We'll answer any questions you have about tax planning strategies. Okay?
Where do you put the money then? Where'd you take the money out?
Put it into a Roth IRA. Roth, still invested. You still invest it like you're investing your 401k. Put it into a Roth IRA, though, and that's where all the tax-free stuff comes in.
Are you saying that you have to pay taxes when you put it in and you take your cash savings to pay the taxes?
I'm saying that could be a way to do it, but we got to talk about that. It's different for everybody. We got to figure out where we're paying the tax from, because you don't want to take it out of the money you're converting.
Right.
You don't want to do that. So that's part of why we analyze everybody's situation. Okay, inflation's a hidden tax. I'll hit it real quick. You know, if we're at the current, who thinks the current inflation rate of 3.9% is the real inflation rate? I mean, that's ridiculous to me, right? We're double-digit inflation, I think. Gas is crazy. I mean, it's been coming down a little bit, but food is crazy. Inflation's nuts. At a 6% inflation rate, your expenses are going to double in 8 years. And if we have 25 years in retirement and we're going to double every 8 years, think about that. My expenses are $5,000, they're going to go to 10 8 years from now. 8 years after that, they're going to go to 10 to 20. If I'm still living, God forbid, they're going to go from $20,000 to $40,000 a month. You got to have an income plan for that. And that's another thing that we will go over with you if we meet with you at DPS advisors. So here's Luke's going to talk about market volatility, why you can't invest the same way you were when you're working when you're about to retire.
Thank you, John. I'm Luke Papa. I had the pleasure of meeting some of you at the door out there. Like he said before, I'm almost 2 years in the business now. I graduated from the University of South Carolina, class of 2022. Started working here at DPS a week later. And it's been great so far. I love what I do, and it's a pleasure to be with you guys tonight. So let's talk about market volatility and how it could affect you if you're in retirement or you're approaching retirement. So investing in retirement is totally different than investing while you're working. When you're working, you're receiving an income. You can afford to be aggressive with your investments, and you should be. When you're getting closer to retirement and you're about 5 years out, John called it the retirement red zone before. That's when you want to start shifting to a more conservative portfolio. Once you're in retirement, you really need to worry about market volatility because you can't afford to take a loss in the market and having to take money out of your IRA and the RMDs. Because once you're 73 and RMDs are due and you haven't done any Roth conversions, that RMD doesn't care if the stock market is down, and you still got to take that money out by December 31st. So let's take a look at a chart to see how a loss could affect you. If you lose 10% in your portfolio, it's going to take you 3.6 years at a 3% return to get back to even. At a 6% return, it's going to take almost 2 years. In 2020, both stocks and bonds were down. Is everyone here familiar with the 60-40 balanced portfolio? 60% stocks, 40% bonds. Well, that portfolio was down 25% in 2020 because the concept that stocks and bonds have an inverse relationship is a lie. Bonds are affected by interest rates. And in 2020, Federal Reserve started raising rates, bond values went down. So that 60-40 balanced portfolio got crushed. If you lose 20% and you're now a conservative investor because you're in retirement, it's going to take 7.5 years at a 3% return to get back to even. Do you really want to be taking that kind of, because you're conservative now, so you're not taking that much risk, but you're never going to make that money back. So let's look at another chart. If you start with 100,000 and you lose 10%, that leaves you with 90,000, and it's going to take an 11.1% return to get back to 100,000. You may think because you lost 10% that a 10% return will get you back to even. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. If you lose 25%, that leaves you with 75,000, and it's going to take a 33.3% return to get back to 100,000. Which means you'd have to take a crazy amount of risk to get that kind of return. And you don't really want to be that risky in retirement, right? You want to be comfortable. So you just really need to pay attention to market volatility in retirement. This last slide I want to show you, this is called the lost decade. So this is a $1 million IRA from 2000 to 2009 with 4% distributions taken out and losses in the market. At the end of the period, you're left with $480,000. And so what happens if you live 25 years in retirement? Because, like Ted said before, we're living longer nowadays, not shorter. So your investment philosophy in retirement needs to be completely different from your philosophy while you're working. And just one more thing. If you are working with one of those big box firm advisors and you're waiting for the day for them to give you a call and say, hey, so-and-so, you're nearing retirement age, let's start shifting our investments to a more conservative investment vehicle. Let me tell you right now, that day's never gonna happen. So what I want you to do is, after this, take a look at your portfolio and ask yourself, am I comfortable with the risk I'm taking right now? If you don't do anything else, at least do that. Thank you.
And why it's really important for people who are about to retire is because, let's go back to that RMD question, right? So you're on December 31st, 2021, your IRA was worth $1 million. That's when the IRS asks the companies to determine what your RMD is on the year-end date. So December 31st, your IRA is worth $1 million. Your distribution has to be $40,000 in 2022. That year. Anytime in that year, you have to take the money out, right? That's your distribution. So we just talked about living a really long time. Now that year, that balanced portfolio was down 25%. So that $1 million went from $1 million, let's say this is your first year in retirement. That $1 million went down to $750 because of the market, because you had a 60-40 balanced portfolio. Your current advisor said that's going to protect you from any market losses. If the stocks go down, don't worry about it. You got bonds. Well, guess what? That didn't work. So now your million's down to 750. You have to take 40,000 out in the RMD. Now in 1 year in retirement, you have 710 left. You lost 30%. Your portfolio's down 30% in 1 year. If that happens, when your RMD kicks in, you cannot invest the way you were investing when you were growing your portfolio the way you are in retirement. In retirement, you have to invest like the The endowments, everyone hears what the endowments have been in the news lately, right? The college endowments, Harvard's got $50 billion in endowments. Their investment rules, they have 3 of them. They want to grow their assets a little bit, take a little bit of money out when they need it, and protect their principal. That's what an endowment's investment philosophy is. In retirement, you have to look at your IRA or your retirement account as an endowment. I want it to grow a little bit if I can. I want to take distributions out so I can live, and I want to protect my principal as much as I can. That's not a growth strategy. That's a preservation and conservation strategy. And that's what we should be doing when you're about 5 years away from retirement, and definitely when you're in retirement.
This might be a stupid question, but when you're taking that money out, where are you putting it?
Into a Roth.
Into the Roth?
Well, no. You're taking your RMD out because you have to.
Right.
The RMD doesn't go into a Roth because it's not going to do anything. I mean,
It's too late then.
it's too you need earned income to contribute to a Roth. If you're retired with no earned income, even that $40,000 RMD, that's not earned income. You can't put it into a Roth IRA then. You're taking it out and either reinvesting it in a non-qualified account or you're spending it to live on. You know, it depends. The IRS doesn't care. They want that $40,000 out so they can collect $8 grand in taxes. They don't care what you're going to do with them. You could burn it for all they care. They want their taxes. Okay? So, and again, it depends on the situation. Every person's situation is different. So, you know, with that being said, every person that comes into our office has, I don't care if you're worth $50,000 or $5 million. Every person that comes into our office with us, we have a 3 investment world discussion. My job as your financial advisor is to show you all the pros and cons of every financial investment tool that you can use. And being independent, it doesn't matter to me what tool you want to use. I'm going to explain to you the pros and cons of each one of those tools so that you can make a better decision as to where your money is. So what we do with clients is we separate their assets. Because if you leave all your money in Wall Street in that 60-40 balanced portfolio, all of your money is at risk. The stocks are at risk for market risk. The bonds are at risk for interest rate risk, and we're in a volatile interest rate environment now. They're going up, going down, going up and down. It affects the bond market. So there's no safety in any investment in the world of Wall Street on the right. There's no safety. We talk about separating your assets, have some money in the bank, not $300,000-400,000 like we talked before in the CDs, but have some money as an emergency fund, minimal. Then have monies in investments that are true safe money investments that can't go down when the markets go down. And there's all different kinds of investments that do that. There's fixed annuities that do that. There's equity-linked CDs that do that. There's different types of investments that you need to talk about and see if it works on your behalf, in your best interest. And then you also want to have some money in the market because we are living longer. But if I've separated my assets apart and I know I'm not touching that Wall Street bucket for 10 or 15 years, I don't panic in 2025 when the market's down a little bit. Because that bucket I'm not touching for 10 years or 15 years. So when you separate your assets, you don't get any panic, didn't make any panic decisions. Our phone calls haven't been ringing off the hook in the last month, 2 months. No, because no one's touching their third bucket money. That money's going to grow, and then over time, it's going to grow a lot. That's our investment money. All our other money is in safe money positions, not being affected by the markets.
So do you think that because the market's down now, people should just hold still?
No,
Is that what you're saying?
absolutely not. Why would you hold still?
I don't know, I'm asking you, you just said it's going to grow, leave it alone.
But is all your money in the market?
No.
Oh, well, then I can't really answer that question without knowing what your situation is. But for most people, when they come in to see us for this free meeting we're going to give you guys, offer you, they come in with their big box firm statement and all their money is in the market. Here, I work with company name initials are MS. I work with ML. I work with all these. Here's my statements. The big F company. Here's my statement. All their money is in the market. Every one of their dollars is invested there. The broker told them, have some bonds, have some stocks, you're good. And then 2022 came and you lost a quarter of your portfolio. In retirement, you're never getting that back. So no, I'm not saying in that situation would I stay there. I'm making changes because I have to. because I can't afford not to make changes. So, we'll wrap it up really quick, and we're going to be here for questions and answers, so don't have to worry about running out. We're going to offer everybody here in the room, because this is an education retirement class, our office is in Roseland. If we said anything to you guys tonight that talked about some situations, I mean, tax planning, everybody has a 401k and IRA. Investing in the market, when to turn on Social Security. If anything interests you, we offer, and I promise and I swear, it's a no stress, no obligation. Come in to see us, spend an hour in our office in Roseland. We'll go over your situation. You know, why you came out here to Yogi Berra's museum on the first day of spring. We didn't offer you a steak, a bottle of water. Something's going on financially for you to come out here and spend your time with us, and we appreciate it really well. And I promise, you come see us, they'll have our calendars outside. You can make your appointments before you leave. There's going to be no stress, no obligation. Just come in, bring your statements, and we'll talk about why'd you come? What's going on in your life financially that prompted you to say, hey, look at this Facebook ad, let's see this short, fat Italian guy. Let me go see him talk for an hour, you know? You guys didn't laugh at that. That was a joke.
I laughed.
All right.
I laughed.
All right, good. So with that, we're going to be here to answer questions. If you do want to take us up on an offer, I promise you, no stress, no obligation. Luke and Susie and Ted will be out there taking appointments down. You'll get an answers to all your questions, okay?
The Social Security question before anybody leaves.
We're not going anywhere. We'll be the last people out of here, so I'm here for whatever you want. Thank you very much for coming. I appreciate you spending the time for the hour or so. I'm sorry we ran a little late, but hopefully we'll see you in the office.
Thank you.